KBLA Talk 1580. Y'all know what time it is. It is time. I sound like my dad. You know what time it is? It's nation time. It is time for Freedmen Friday. And I'm excited to have our in-studio guest here with us, my Assemblyman. Might be yours. He is, he's not new to our Freedmen Friday segment. He is, before becoming a member of the Assembly, he was an activist and a scholar activist at UCLA. He is representing the 57th, and he is part of the 55th, California, I should know that because I live in it, California Congressional Black Caucus. Isaac Bryan, welcome back.
Thank you for having me, Dominique. Good morning.
Ben, good morning. It's been a busy time.
It has been a busy time. There's a lot going on in the city, a lot going on in the country, but the work continues.
I mean, and we could do a whole other segment about you out in these streets protesting with all the stuff that's going on with the invasion of our city by the military and ICE and all that. But it's Freedmen Friday, so we won't go there, but I would feel crazy not at least mentioning it.
I mean, that's for folks who have known me a long time. It is not surprising, even a little bit, for me to be outside.
Yeah. Well, there's your bill around education.
Yeah.
Around priority admissions for descendants of enslaved Americans, Africans in America, however you want to put it, freedmen, whatever y'all want to call it. It's funny to me. You didn't call it reparations.
No.
And you don't claim it's reparations.
Nope.
And a lot of reparations activists say it isn't. So apparently I'm the only one that thinks it's reparations.
I mean, I think, we ran into this last year, which is funny because it's all relative. For some folks colloquially and folks who are not kind of deep in either the academic or the legislative or the movement side of the work, reparations very plainly and simply means cash transfers, right?
Yeah.
And direct.
And that's an important part. You'd agree.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
But some would say, in a very simplistic way, that if it is not that, it is not reparations. Don't call it reparations.
I see.
But then also, if you're like, okay, well, we'll talk about reparative justice and restorative justice and recompense for harms of the past. Well, now you're afraid to say reparations. So
yeah,
it's like you used the word too freely before. Now you don't use it at all. It doesn't matter to me at this point. I'm done with semantics and I'm just doing what I got to do.
Right, trying to move things along, trying to get stuff done. Okay, so I'm not going to set off that debate, but I will. I'm going to mention it because we've been arguing about your bill without you here for months.
Oh.
So
I'm not gonna lie, I haven't tuned into that.
It's okay.
I hope it's been exciting.
It's been exciting because whatever you call it, well, explain what the bill does.
The bill, real simply, I understood coming out of the last several years, and people often forget, I've been in this conversation since the very beginning. In fact, if you look in the footnotes of the task force report, specifically the criminal justice section, my scholarship is cited a half dozen times as the literature to justify some of the recommendations in the criminal justice section. But even before that, I was Dr. Shirley Weber's expert witness when she was in the Judiciary Committee of the Assembly 5 years ago, long before I was a legislator. I was the first expert witness to testify in support of the task force. So I've been around throughout that arc of this journey. And one thing that's very evident and clear to me is that there is a legal debate that we believe, our folk believe, is settled, but actually isn't settled in law. And that is whether, particularly in California, whether lineage-based, a harm-based approach for descendants of those who are enslaved in this country is in fact constitutional under Prop 209, let alone the federal affirmative action bans. We believe it is. Organizers believe it is. Many scholars believe it is. But any attempt to make that law will be challenged in the courts. And so understanding that at the top of this year, we got creative and started to think, okay, how can we, codify this designation in a way that doesn't cost the state so much money that it can get stopped for cost, ignites our allies, particularly our constitutional lawyers and scholars, because they have skin in the game, and gives us standing to be challenged and go through the legal process of defending this being legal. So this bill real plainly says that universities in California, private and public, may consider a preference in the admissions process for descendants of American chattel slavery.
And so it's so tempting to just say, how is that not reparations? But really what this could do, and probably will do, assuming, that it passes, would be test the lineage concept.
Correct.
Which is been, for people who haven't been following, there's kind of 2 or 3 schools about reparations and who is deserving of those, whatever benefits they might be, right? Which is race-based, everybody black.
Right.
Everybody black should get reparations. Lineage-based, you should only get it if you can prove you're descendant of someone enslaved or a freedman, depending on, people have different, like you said, terminology, but it's the same folks.
Right.
And then some people make the distinction that harm-based is different than lineage-based.
I mean, I think the greatest harm in our country's history is the enslavement of Africans in America.
And there's overlap, right? If I was looking at this list Harvard has of all the things we've given reparations for in this country.
Yeah.
People who have gotten bad outcomes from pharmaceuticals, farmers who've, had been affected by policies. So that would specifically be a harm group.
Yeah, I mean,
I was affected by this policy, or I had bad pharmaceuticals, so that's a harm group. In this case, the harm group and the lineage are one and the same, right?
correct, exactly.
So there's no real difference there.
Not in my mind. In fact, I think it's how you build a broader coalition of folks who understand conceptually what you're trying to do.
Right, because theoretically, if you were from Slovenia and you could prove that you were the descendant of an enslaved person who worked for free and was abused on a plantation, you would be eligible.
I mean, Frederick Douglass was the immediate descendant of a white European. You know what I mean? Like, that is part of our story here in this country as well.
Sally Hemings, right?
Yeah, right. The lineage of folks who were enslaved and their descendants doesn't line up neatly with race, because race was a social construct that has been created to try to keep us, systematically enslaved, but it doesn't directly overlap with those who have been harmed and, the afterlives and lineage of those who have been harmed.
So should this stand the test of court scrutiny, it would...
Huge.
Would it firmly establish freedmen or descendants of chattel slavery as a category of harm that can be recognized for all these different things?
Absolutely. I mean, if it stands legal scrutiny, which is, I didn't say it early on in the bill's process, but I think it's starting to come to light. Folks who have been in Sacramento on this journey, and I haven't seen a lot of folks in Sacramento who I'd seen in previous years, but I've seen a whole lot of people in Sacramento nonetheless coming out. The California Association for Black Lawyers showed up strong in the Judiciary Committee.
Interesting.
In deep support. We had constitutional scholars who are already, drafting their, opinions about the constitutionality of this effort. The judiciary analysis was phenomenal in the state Senate, and it laid out very clearly, and I encourage everybody to go read it. It said a couple different things. It said, one, that they believed that the Judiciary Committee of the state Senate believes that this is constitutional and does not violate, any parameters of the Constitution. And two, that the opponents claim that this is a proxy for race also falls flat. Both of those things are written in the most recent and the final policy committee analysis of this bill, and I think that's incredibly powerful. And just to be clear, we are going to get this bill out. There's no question about that. We've built solidarity in the Black Caucus. This wasn't me kind of running a solo play trying to make something happen. I brought all of my colleagues together in the way that you need to. We organized inside and outside with community. Hundreds and hundreds of folks have been up to Sacramento in support of this bill. In fact, some folks in the studio who I saw this morning who I haven't seen since being up in Sacramento. We've also built coalition amongst our colleagues. This bill got 54 votes in the state assembly, which is unheard of. Now, to be clear, it was in the low 40s, and then people added on after it passed.
I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah, so they kept the powder dry. They didn't vote. They saw it passed, and then they added on as yes votes. But
hey, we'll take them.
54 is 54. Got out of the Senate Judiciary Committee 11-2. The only people who have not voted for this bill are Republicans, which doesn't surprise any of us in Sacramento. Might surprise some other folks, but if you've been doing this long enough, it shouldn't surprise you even a little bit.
Yeah, and the guy, they call him a legal activist, whatever you want to call him, a troll, Edward Bloom, who brought that case against Harvard to the Supreme Court and actually effectively was behind the national ban of affirmative action, has already attacked this bill.
Oh, from the jump, because he saw it. He sees what it is, and what it is a very clever and thoughtful and well-crafted way to attack an argument that he has spent decades using to codify systemic exclusion and to reaffirm the racism within our institutions. And this is a way to slice right through that, and he's terrified of that.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, when you look at the actual outcome of affirmative action's ban in California, you see a reduction of black students and other BIPOC students, but specifically black students in all of the elite universities. UC Berkeley, UCLA, all of them.
It's funny. Nothing that's put in to benefit us solely benefits us in the way that it was, crafted to. But the second it's taken away, it impacts us more severely than anybody else. And so we're caught in this push and pull of protecting things like affirmative action that were designed from us, that we know that other people benefited from even greater than us. This is one of those things that we're very clear about who this is for. And it is for the descendants of those who were enslaved during chattel slavery in this country.
Yeah, we're going to talk more about that. I'm really fascinated by what the implications are in many other areas of the success of this. And I want to talk to you a little bit about where some of the other things are that we had on our agenda for this legislative session. It's a Freedmen Friday. You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we're proud to be celebrating 4 years on the air, but we know we could not have made it this far without you. We work hard every single day to curate conversations that will enlighten, encourage, and empower you. So, from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580, a big thank you for your love and support.
You don't know how much you mean to me.
And by the way, if your smartphone did not update automatically, be sure to download our brand new KBLA 1580 app. We think you'll love all the new features, including new ways to send us photos and video in real time, whenever news breaks, while we're on the air. It's a new dawn, a new day for KBLA Talk 1580, and we're glad you're on this journey with us.
You never turned away, you were right there. Thank you, thank you.
Agnes was in deep trouble with the IRS.
I owed the IRS a lot of money. I did not know what I was going to do. I was scared.
Agnes caught a break and found out about Optima Tax Relief.
But when I called Optima Tax, they guaranteed me that they were going to help me out the best that they can. And they did.
Optima stopped the IRS.
No more telephone calls, no more letters. Optima Tax took care of everything. I can finally sleep at night. I was stress-free.
Agnes was finally free from her IRS nightmare.
It was like a burden was lifted off of me, and it was a great feeling.
Are you in deep trouble with the IRS? You might want to listen to Agnes.
I would refer Optima Tax Relief to anyone because they got me debt-free from owing the IRS any more money.
Call Optima right now for your free consultation. Call 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
You hear that? That's Mike, sleeping soundly on a Sunday night. That's because Mike was smart this time. He took ZzzQuil Ultra to fall asleep fast, stay asleep longer, and get the deeply restorative sleep he needs. So now he wakes up refreshed and ready to conquer Mondays.
Let's do this Monday.
ZzzQuil Ultra. Not for colds, just for sleep. Really great sleep. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Why'd I go to the doctor? My heart would race just taking my son to practice. It didn't feel right. So I got checked out. Turns out I have atrial fibrillation, which increases the risk of stroke about 5 times.
Symptoms like irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain, shortness of breath, fatigue, or lightheadedness can come and go. But if it's AFib, the risk of stroke remains. If you have symptoms, contact a doctor.
I'm so glad I did.
Visit notimetowait.com. Sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
The conversation continues right now with Dominique DiPrima on First Things First.
Talking with Assemblymember Isaac Bryan, and it is Freedmen Friday, so the focus has been reparations. But just hearing you speak right then about how you crafted your bill around college admissions, and you're not calling it reparations, although I do. But the idea of crafting something, finding another way in, and really using the power of our scholarly resources. Why don't we do that more? Everyone's talking about how the Democrats are in crisis. Oh, what to do. But if you look at the scholar ledger,
right?
If you look at the intellectual weight, Democrats win in the first round every time. So why don't we use our smarts more?
Well, that was part of why I helped, found the Black Policy Project at UCLA, because I saw this giant disconnect between institutions of higher learning, where some of our greatest thinkers and scholars are. And I was with Dr. Parham just the other night, who's retiring as president of Cal State Dominguez Hills. I mean, the first brother ever hired by the University of Pennsylvania as a clinical psychologist, right? There's a disconnect between our scholarship and our policy making and our grassroots movement work. And those 3 silos work their best when they're touching each other. That's when our power is our strongest, and our ability to effectuate change is the realest. And so I've spent literally my entire career trying to bridge those gaps, whether it was outside or inside. That's the way I think it should be done.
So we have a road to repair bill package, and it's not always easy to track where everything is. My understanding is that ACA 6 is dead. Is that true?
No, it's
that's the one that would prohibit slavery, something we've been trying to do.
And
this would be like the 4th shot at it, I think.
I'm hopeful if we could get language right. I think the voters of California either, and we talked about this on Election Day, either realized they were making a mistake afterwards or didn't realize they were making a mistake on Election Day. And so we have to clear that language up that goes on your ballot. The word slavery was not on your ballot, for example.
Yeah, but I think some folks thought that would be a problem to have, because I was told that by some, marketing types. Don't say slavery. Well,
I think the proof is in the outcome, right? I think Californians would vote to abolish slavery in all of its forms.
I hope so.
I mean, if Nevada can, right, and if some other places can. Nevada voted for Trump and
Louisiana. Help me, people.
Oh my goodness, the home of Angola. But no, that's a easy thing for folks to get confused by. Ballot measures only go on the ballot every 2 years. So the fact that it was introduced at the first year of a legislative cycle is a 2-year cycle. So in the first year of a legislative cycle, a lot of things get introduced. Some things get parked in different places throughout the legislative process, picked back up in the second year. In the case of a constitutional amendment, you wouldn't expect it on the ballot until next year anyway, so it doesn't have to move all the way through the process.
So the fact that it's parked somewhere, I think it may be appropriations. I don't know.
Correct. Is not actually a bad thing.
It hasn't gone there to die yet,
no.
As far as we know.
No, it can absolutely come out in January and head to the ballot. Some things get on the ballot super early, but you actually want to take your time as a legislature with that, because the kind of propositions there are 2 ways to get on the ballot. One is voter initiative, where you went and collected hundreds of thousands of signatures, and that puts you on. Another is that we voted on with a 2/3 majority. And the things that we vote on, I think we want to be intentional about them being things that drive California in the right direction, also drive folks to show up and care about the issues. and things that maybe complement or balance each other. And I think it's really early to look at the 2026 ballot. And so I don't think that there's anything that the legislature has put on the ballot yet for 2026.
Okay, so that just keep an eye on it.
Yeah.
Just keep well, and if you want to do some advocacy, there's a good place to start. What about SB 518, which is meant to establish a Bureau of Descendants of American Slavery? Another one that's turned out to be more controversial than I would have guessed.
Yeah, no, I think the chair is better equipped to talk about this, as it's her legislation in particular.
Right.
But
Weber Pearson.
Yeah, I think she's trying to continue the work that was started by her mother when she was chair of the Black Caucus, and that was been carried on from previous leaders of the Black Caucus, and moving the step forward. It's not uncommon for new government infrastructure, especially during a down budget year, to start as an office or a bureau or some sort of entity inside an existing structure where you can borrow full-time staff that already exist or fill vacancies that exist in the department already for this purpose, and then grow from there. And a good example of that is the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division. There is now a Civil Rights Department, right? And that growth was not unintentional. And I think we've seen that in many other places and spaces at all levels of government.
Mm. Well said. Okay, want to go back to your bill here. I wasn't done with it. I just I didn't want to forget, because that's another thing. It's hard to track. I mean, unless you're sitting up there in the assembly or you really have some kind of inside track.
It's hard for some of us to track sometimes, because we can only, our primary focus is to the legislation we're individually carrying. So we're moving as a collective in terms of bringing things to the table for the road to repair. But I've got 16 other pieces of legislation to help, my community and my folks. And I want to give a shout out to the family of Waukesha Wilson, who has been up in Sacramento more than I've seen just about anybody, fighting for Waukesha's law with us. We were fighting to increase the pay of incarcerated firefighters. There's $10 million in ongoing money to go towards incarcerated people for their labor. That's unprecedented in California's history. We're fighting to end the use of secret non-disclosure agreements by police departments who fire officers and then give them this kind of sweetheart deal on the way out, where you sign this NDA, it erases your misconduct, and you can go work somewhere else. We've got a whole host of things that we're working on, but this singular piece, AB7, is what we've added to the road to the repair.
So that's your main focus. It authorizes priority admissions for descendants of American chattel slavery to higher education institutions. And I guess the big hurdle would be the governor's signature, because you said you feel pretty confident you can get it out of the Senate and the Assembly.
Absolutely. We've got it out of it'll have to come back on a concurrence vote in the Assembly, but we got 54 votes at the House of Origin. That was huge. It just left the Judiciary Committee 11-2 in the Senate. I expect every Democrat to vote for this. I expect Republicans to continue, like they have for anything that's reparative or reparations related, to call it unconstitutional, to say they don't stand for it. It's been or to try to distract and splinter and fracture in whatever ways that they can. But they don't have the juice to slow this down, respectfully. So we're going to get this to the governor's desk. The question is whether we can get the governor to sign it. And I'm going to put, as much weight as I can into that process. He ultimately makes that decision, but we can definitely do some things to clear the pathway. And part of that is getting a robust showing of support through the houses.
Do you think that regular voters like me, you, and the KBLA delegation, not you because you're actually an assembly member, but me and Miles and our KBLA delegation weighing in to the governor's office, do you think that makes a difference? Saying, hey, you know what, sign AB7?
Oh, absolutely. I'm about to call every black clergy I know. I'm about to call Danny Bakewell. I'm about to call all the OGs, all the young movers. Tubbs, send them a note. Everybody I know who can even remotely get close to getting on his radar, I'm gonna, call in a favor, which I don't often do and haven't done. But this is important because, as you said, Dominique, if this gets signed, I expect a constitutional challenge like immediately. And Ed Blum, in about 6 different racist ways, has already announced that he would challenge this on constitutional grounds immediately. And if we were successful in defending that challenge, and by the way, it would be this: if the governor signs it, it is the state of California defending that. It's not me. It's not the community. Right. It is actually the Department of Justice who wrote the reparations report, who's there now would be going to bat to defend this through the court process. And if we were successful, that lays the foundation for all government action, any government action, priority, preference, or resource allocation for this specific group to be constitutional. That doesn't mean the lawsuits would stop, but that court case would be the foundation by which everything else could be built on.
Right. I want to talk more about that after news, traffic, and sports. Assemblymember Isaac Bryan is here, and it's a Freedmen Friday.
KBLA Talk 1580 is an intervention. When we come forward, includes you. KBLA Talk 1580, turning pain into power.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Black New York City Mayor Eric Adams is investigating poor conditions at an ICE center in Lower Manhattan.
We are going to coordinate with our local electeds to look at what is happening there, including our federal electeds.
Video shows migrants sleeping on floors in unsanitary bathrooms. Advocates say it's being used as a detention center. Federal officials deny that. French President Emmanuel Macron and his wife are suing Black U.S. conservative podcaster Candace Owens for defamation. They say she spread false claims that Mrs. Macron is transgender and profited from it. Owens calls the lawsuit a PR stunt. And sports broadcaster Taylor Rooks is officially married. She tied the knot in a private star-studded New York ceremony with guests like Kevin Durant and Saquon Barkley. Pictures were posted online. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
The Crohn's and Colitis Foundation has been at the forefront of inflammatory bowel disease research and care for over 50 years. Learn more about research, education, and support at Crohn'sColitisFoundation.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Venus Williams' inspirational run at the D.C. Open in Washington, D.C. came to an end Thursday night. The 45-year-old Compton native lost in the second round in straight sets to Magdalena Frech of Poland. Venus lost 6-2 and 6-2. The crowd gave Venus a standing ovation after Frech scored the final point. The seven-time Grand Slam champion was playing in her first tournament since March of 2024. Venus accepted a wildcard invitation to play at the Cincinnati Open, which begins August 5th. When Venus beat Peyton Stearns Tuesday in the first round of the D.C. Open, she became the second oldest woman to win a singles match. The LA Sparks have their first 4-game winning streak in the WNBA in 2 years. They beat the Connecticut Sun 101-86, 30 points and 6 assists for Sparks guard Kelsey Plume. The Sparks are in New York Saturday to play the Liberty, the defending WNBA champs. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Nearly 7 million Americans aged 65 and older are living with Alzheimer's disease or AD. But did you know that Black adults aged 65 and older are twice as likely as white adults to develop AD? You may be able to reduce your risk by managing conditions like diabetes and high blood pressure, being physically active, eating healthy, and exercising your mind. To learn more about AD, the importance of early diagnosis and intervention, and a potential treatment option, visit treatalzearly.com. That's treatalzearly.com. This message is brought to you by AZI.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we aim to foster enlightening, sustainable, restorative dialogue, and we welcome unapologetically progressive viewpoints that empower fellow citizens. We are now accepting submissions for KBLA Talk 1580 guest editorials like this one.
For the KBLA Talk 1580 guest editorial, I'm Martin Gordon, chair of the Pasadena Community Coalition. Recently, I listened to a Tavis Smiley Show conversation with James Farr. James said something that caught me off guard. Black out that Dina is gone. My community is being murdered. I said murdered.
All you have to do is go to our website homepage at KBLA1580.com and click on the icon that says KBLA Guest Editorials to learn more about our editorial standards and content submission guidelines. As long as the topic aligns with our mission, we are happy to review your submission and consider it for broadcast. We can't make any promises, but we want to amplify progressive perspectives that are community-focused and solution-oriented. So, go to KBLA1580.com right now to download all the information you need about our guest editorials. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
The following is a paid advertisement by Family Vacation Getaways with the purpose of soliciting sales of vacation ownership. For complete details, please visit fvgradio.com. If you want a 100% complimentary stay at a luxury resort in Cancun, airfare not included, then Family Vacation Getaways is your ticket to paradise. See website for complete details. We're giving away 5 days and 4 nights to the first 50 callers who can name an animal that lays eggs and is not a bird. An animal that lays eggs and is not a bird. Do you know it? Call now, 800-868-6431, 800-868-6431. You're also eligible for an exciting bonus vacation to Orlando, Florida for just $498. And don't worry about anything ruining your plans. We can extend your travel up to 18 months. Name an animal that lays eggs and is not a bird, and get a complimentary Cancun resort stay and an optional bonus vacation to Orlando for just $498. What are you waiting for? Call 800-868-6431, 800-868-6431, and give us your answer. The proceeding is not a contest and is a paid advertisement by Family Vacation Getaways and not sponsored by this program or its affiliates.
We knew you'd stick around. This is LA's home for progressive talk radio. Welcome back to KBLA Talk 1580.
Welcome back to Freedmen Friday. Dominique DiPrima here, and Assemblymember Isaac Bryan, representing the 55th District here in California, is in the House. And just to put things in context, in New Mexico, people who were impacted by the Trinity test, a nuclear test, are about to get a bigger group there, about to get reparations. The victims of the first atom bomb there will soon become eligible. In Maryland, the feud is between the governor and activists about after he decided not to sign a reparations bill there, but his logic was enough studies. Let's move to actual reparations. Some folks looked at it as a duck, a dodge. I don't know. It sounded to me like he was making the same argument I've heard activists make about H.R. 40. And I'm putting all this on the table because I know that Assemblymember Isaac Bryan, before he was an Assemblymember, was a scholar. And also yesterday, this is like right in your wheelhouse, Assemblyman Bryan, the world's top court is saying now that major polluters may have to pay reparations for the climate damage, the harm that they have done to the climate emergency because of the existential threat to the planet. So reparations in the conversation all over the place. It only seems to be a problem when it comes to black people.
Right. And in some of those things, you can have intersectional overlap. For example, some of that work coming out of the climate reparations kind of thinking, we were a part of that journey, right? With AB 2716, for folks who don't know, we passed a piece of legislation last year to shut down the Inglewood oil field by 2030 and forced the owner-operator to pay community reparations into a fund that could only be dispersed within 2.5 miles of the community and 2.5 miles of the oil field, the community that's been directly impacted disproportionately, South LA, right?
Harm-based reparations.
Harm-based reparations that just happens to be
climate
impacts that disproportionately impacted black folks as well.
What we like to call environmental racism.
I call it whatever you want, as long as we can move the work through. You know
call
what I mean?
It what you want. But where are we with that?
So the oil company is suing the state over that legislation. So like I was talking to the Department of Justice the other day, because in my mind, getting sued for the legislation you do is a mark that you did something truly transformative.
Right, especially if it's the oil company suing you.
Exactly. That folks are so upset that they're willing to throw down millions of dollars and potentially waste millions of dollars just to drag it out, litigate it, or because their shareholders require that they do whatever they can to push back. But I think the courts have to let that play out. But through the legislative process, we won. We fought an oil company here in South LA, and we beat them. Stand up. and the governor signed the bill in the oil field. And there should be $20 million a year coming directly to community in a variety of different forms, whether it's park creation, affordable housing, community infrastructure, universal basic incomes for folks with health outcomes. I mean, we get to have a lot of creativity in what we do with this money in terms of improving community, but the money isn't there yet until kind of this court process plays out. And so folks need to pay attention. That's another battle we've got to win.
And congratulations, by the way. I think that was a huge W. But isn't it possible that they're going to spend more money fighting this bill than they would have spent just repairing the harm they've done in the community?
Potentially, because I think the way that we wrote the legislation, it could be as much as $100 million.
Okay.
And so that's a really expensive lawsuit.
Right,
I don't think they're spending that much money. And I know
okay, I got you.
I know that there's a hearing on the case in August in the courts, and the case is split up into two parts. And so, I mean, I'm trying to track this as close as I can. But it's the DOJ's to defend. But they also haven't put an injunction on it yet. So the fines, or the penalty, I should say, the community penalty starts to go into effect, I believe, at the top of next year, where by the end of next year, they should have paid $20 million into this fund for community. Because they haven't put an injunction, that doesn't stop that. So I believe that by January, once those start kicking in, they're going to try to go for an injunction in the courts to pause that. So we just need to stay active. We need to stay on top of it. We need to know what's happening.
That's wild. And, Godspeed on that. So I want to, again, look at your bill, because we talked about how AB 7, we expected to be challenged. This guy, Edward Bloom, is already threatening in the LA Times. We can shut that down. That's a proxy for race, blah, 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 blah. Right? He's already saying that. They're teeing that up. I know you expected it.
Yep.
But this goes beyond California. Let's say, just for the sake of argument, that you're able to get this signed by the governor.
Yeah.
And then it withstands scrutiny in the courts, and we get the win.
Huge. Huge for California, huge for the country. It would allow for a lineage-based prioritization of, not just admissions, but kind of any government action, right? It would be the opposite of the barriers that 209 have placed on our folks. It would explicitly authorize you to target resources for a specific group. But even AB 7 isn't limited to just California, because California universities accept applicants from anywhere in the country.
Right. And so also, I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but it seems like it does set a precedent, and an important one, in a huge state. And some people are hanging their hat on the fact that Justice Clarence Thomas made these remarks in the Harvard case, saying that maybe freedmen are, or descendants of chattel slavery, are a protected group. Maybe they are a group that can be legitimately recognized moving forward beyond this affirmative action debate.
Yeah. I have also quoted that at times when it's convenient, but anyone who is counting on Clarence Thomas to save us, you got to be a better student of history. I mean, it is very clear. Justice Jackson would be our hero in this moment on that court, and then there are some allies who would show up, and it would be expected, and then there would be some clear swings that would have to make an honest decision. Court decision that impacts all of American history, Justice Roberts and others, right? And so I not at all expect Uncle Clarence Thomas to come through and save the day. In fact, I think he will be a barrier.
Yeah, more than likely.
This. Oh, absolutely. And I think the things he would say from the dais, should this go before the Supreme Court, would be appalling to all black people. But I think we're on solid legal ground. I think we've crafted this in an incredibly smart way, and part of that is because you one of the things I've learned legislating now for over 4 years. I've been in the legislature as long as I was in high school, which blows my mind. But don't overreach. You know what I mean? You got to go for what you can win that advances the needle and moves the conversation and is undoubtedly progress and does no harm. But if you overreach, it makes it easy for folks to poke holes and to distract you and to set up roadblocks. And I think in this particular piece of legislation, I wrote it myself. It's not like somebody brought me the bill and was like, hey, run this bill. It was like, no, it was me and a couple homies and a couple of my academic friends sitting and talking and kind of plotting through the strategy here. And everything is playing out exactly the way we drew it up, including setting the trap for the racists like Ed Blum to be like, oh, this is unconstitutional. It's like that we wrote this for you to come out and say that. Now put your money where your mouth is and challenge it so we can take you to court. But before that, we need the governor to sign it.
Yeah, well, and that's where we come in, KBLA delegation, I think, just encouraging the governor. And there's been a lot of talk about his presidential aspirations. I feel like I've seen a bit of a pivot from trying to have a more conciliatory tone and trying to work with this administration to the realization that these folks are completely insane.
Yeah.
And taking, Governor Troll. I like Governor Newsom the troll myself. I like the way he's hitting back at the Republicans, but some would say that might make it harder to sign a bill like this, but I'd certainly love to see it.
I think I've definitely tried to position this as a juxtaposition to the Trump administration, right? His idea that colleges owe reparations to white folks, his attacks on Harvard and other institutions, his attacks on the admission process already. Like UCLA is already being sued by the Department of Justice for their admissions process, from the Department of Justice's standpoint, being too friendly to, undeserving applicants and things like that, because they use a holistic process during that admissions. So it's important for this. I think it's important for the state to step in and back our universities and stand up to this kind of bigotry towards institutions of higher learning coming out of D.C. And I've tried to position this in a way that makes it easy for the governor to also embrace that fight. Mm-hmm. But, more than anything, this is really a historic moment. I think singularly the most important moment, I might ever live in if he signs this. Because, the journey that AB 7 will then take through the courts and the precedent that it would set and the amount of scrutiny and constitutional opinions, and every black lawyer in the country will come out, justices across the gamut. I mean, folks will show up. This will be, this will turn into a proxy for the racialized attacks coming from the right. This will be a flashpoint for the country, and a decision will have to get made. And the fact that it's the Trump administration that will have to be, or at least the Trump surrogates who have been put on the bench that will have to make this decision, I think that is an important moment for us to see very clearly who we are as a country. Yes, and I also like the fact that it's coming against the backdrop of, okay, they banned affirmative action, DEI, although not illegal, you would think so, given the way this administration is moving against institutions and even private companies that they feel are using DEI. And I think about the Black Student Achievement Program in Los Angeles, and how the first thing I thought was, okay, let's not make it DEI or affirmative action. It should be reparations. Right. So y'all can say the bill is not reparations, but clearly it impacts everything else that you do consider reparations. If you want cash transfers or direct compensation for the harms of the past resulting from slavery, you should be rooting for, cheering for, supporting, advocating for AB 7, because you cannot write legislation to appropriate resources that won't face a significantly harder legal scrutiny. You need some sort of foundation to build from. We have no foundation. We have no clear constitutional precedent for doing anything for descendants of enslaved people in this country. You need a base, and that base can't be, run us our check. They have, or because I said so. Or because I said so. That's my argument. Because you owe it. I mean, and you should, and it shouldn't be this hard. Just to be clear, it shouldn't. It shouldn't be this hard. But that is, we're navigating systems that weren't designed for us, right? Right. And the thing about it is, if you've been following reparations for a long time and you've seen the work of Charles Ogletree and others in the court and how they were shut down, which is why we started going the legislative route, this seems to me to be a new day in court, because you won't be asking the courts to rule on reparations. You asking them really. They'll be ruling on whether or not this particular group of people who were harmed, right, which could be defined by lineage,
is eligible to receive redress.
Right.
And that's it.
And in this case is defined by lineage.
And in this case is defined by lineage.
And whether the Constitution,
very specific lineage.
Whether this state's actions to, authorize its universities to consider a preference is constitutional. And I think, like I said, a lot of thought and intentionality has gone into this process. And if folks don't see that and don't want to be a part of that, that is on them. More folks than I've ever seen on anything I've ever done have shown up for this. And will continue to show up, and we need to show up because while I believe we're going to get off that Senate floor and back off the Assembly floor, we have to let the governor know just how important this precedent is, because not pushing for something like AB 7 is the actual delay.
Yeah.
Right? The actual delay in this work is not getting a clear legal foundation to build on for preference and resource allocation. If there's no clear legal foundation to build on, then whatever you're going to try to do is going to get tied up in the courts, and the more ambitious you are, the easier it will be for them to tie it up, which is why we were very clear and concise with this piece of legislation and activated our own groups of lawyers by targeting the universities.
I mean, and if you think about reparations to Japanese Americans, not all Japanese Americans were interned in those concentration camps. So not all Japanese Americans got reparations, but all the people that got reparations were Japanese Americans.
Correct. And Holocaust survivors, same thing in the Jewish community and other communities.
Yeah, not all Jewish people got Holocaust reparations, but all the Holocaust, well, I don't know that that's true, but I imagine most of those folks were Jewish Americans that received the reparations. So just put that in your brain and think it through. Because to me, it sounds like, in the end, even though it's about education and admissions, we're talking about legalizing lineage.
Correct. That is exactly what it is. And there is no better pathway anywhere in the country than a bill like AB 7.
Well, this is Freedmen Friday. That's what we're talking about. Assemblymember Isaac Bryan is here, and you're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
You have cancer. The 3 words no one wants to hear. Of the cancers that impact our community, lung cancer is the most dangerous. More people succumb to lung cancer than colon, breast, and prostate combined. Black men are 12% more likely to develop lung cancer, and cases for black women are rising. Early detection and comprehensive treatment is the best way to beat this dreaded disease. Providence is a research leader in multi-cancer early detection, offering blood tests that identify fast-spreading cancers that don't show symptoms in early stages. The Providence Los Angeles Integrated Network Cancer Program determines best protocols for each patient, interacting with specialists who share experiences, perspectives, and new findings specific to each case. With over 1,000 board-certified physicians, including top oncologists, surgeons, radiologists, and nurse specialists, Providence delivers whole-person care that understands your culture, values, preferences, and priorities. So, if you hear the words "you have cancer," all you need is faith and providence.org/cancer.
Hey man, hey, what's up? What's that station you listening to? Oh man, you don't know? That's Talk Radio, KBLA 1580 AM. Check it out. 1580 KBLA AM. Progressive.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we're celebrating our 4th anniversary, and this track right here is the gift one of our devoted listeners presented to us.
Where you get some information, get a true education to know. Ooh, yeah. 1580.
How cool is that? Having a member of our KBLA delegation write us a song. Stop it! Our listeners love us, and there ain't nothing we can do about it. Wouldn't want to. Thanks to Cardell and everybody else for turning on KBLA Talk 1580. We love you right black.
Progressive. KBLA.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. LA County's new Justice Care and Opportunities Department, or JCOD, is here to support justice-involved individuals and their families. The JCOD Support Center is now taking calls at 1-833-LACJCOD. That's 1-833-522-5263. Available 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. The Support Center is your one-stop shop for re-entry issues and court support. They offer court reminders, connections to local services, transportation assistance for housing, court appearances, and childcare. The JCOD hotline provides personalized help to connect you with services that you need. And don't forget to check out justiceconnect.org for more information. Remember, it's free and available every day at 1-833-522-5263. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Heard any other talk radio lately that sounds anything like this? We didn't think so. You're listening to Unapologetically Progressive KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580. It is a Freedmen Friday. We do this every week. We talk reparations. We're staying up on stuff. Paul Lee says the Bloom argument doesn't hold water, in my opinion, because they didn't even go through Congress for that. We're talking to Assemblymember Isaac Bryan. You agree with Paul Lee on that?
I do. I think it's a pretty flat argument, and I think every article he's been quoted in is the loudest dog whistle I've ever seen. I can't believe folks still talk like that publicly into the press about, subjugating and holding back a specific class of people.
Yeah. Judicially affirmed says, how do we know this isn't another Lucy with the football bill that will ultimately get pulled and not signed like the Freedmen bills last year? Last year they didn't go to the governor's desks. Well, although he didn't sign the bill about eminent domain. So, yeah.
Well, and that's because it was tied to another bill. This bill isn't tied to anything, and it's definitely going to the governor's desk. So, and
I guess we'll know when it gets to the governor's desk.
Oh, yeah. I am personally organizing and mobilizing and doing the necessary work to get it there, with the complete solidarity of the Legislative Black Caucus and the solidarity of many of my colleagues. That's distinctively different than what happened last year, and I definitely encourage folks to go back to you and me sitting down at the end of last year to talk about why that wasn't the case last year.
And I'll point out, like I did last year, that you continue to be the only one who consistently shows up, and talks to the people and follows up.
Fractures destroy black movement. They always have. And that's why, I was taught we don't argue in front of white folk, right? And we handle our business, in places and spaces that are safe for us, even if we disagree. That's not what happened last year, and that's okay. This year, I refuse to let that be the case. So the Black Caucus is in complete lockstep with the most ambitious to the least ambitious proposals. We have all signed off on AB 7. We're all co-authors of AB 7. Got 54 votes, a supermajority in the Assembly. It was all Democrats. Not a single Republican stepped up. In fact, the only no votes have been Republicans on every single bill in the road to repair. But I think many of them are going to go to the governor's desk. One that I know is going to go to the governor's desk is AB 7.
And do you think that many of the other bills will keep the support of the Congressional Black Caucus at least and go to vote?
Oh, I think we are all, every bill that is in the road to repair, we did the necessary work to get buy-in from everybody. So we all don't have to love the approach that our colleagues have taken. We don't have to love everything about the way they're navigating legislation that they're carrying, but we have all bought in and decided to stand together. And I don't see any piece of it as, as intrinsically harmful. And not all proposals that were uplifted made it into that package. And so there were no dueling press conferences. There was no real reparations package and fake reparations package. In fact, there's no reparations package. There's a road to repair. And we put it together comprehensively using, a lens of repair and reparative justice that spans from, housing to university admissions to other kinds of things. And so we've got a lot of work to do, but we've got to lay this foundation and build on it.
Assemblymember Isaac Bryan, thank you so much for coming in. Remind folks how to track you and your work.
You can follow me online at IB2Real or just catch me outside sometime.
All right. Great to see you. Thank you so much for coming in. Gina Belafonte is in the studio with me next. What a Friday. It's KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Black New York City Mayor Eric Adams is investigating poor conditions at an ICE center in Lower Manhattan.
We are going to coordinate with our local electeds to look at what is happening there, including our federal